Waitress slips the Vampire King. A note, don't drink it. Smile and leave now. He grabs her wrist instead. Just pour. Don't shake. If you shake, the silver settles at the bottom, and he might taste it before it kills him. The whisper came from the cook, a man Charlotte had trusted for 3 years. But tonight, his eyes were too bright, his sweat smelling of sour fear and adrenaline. Outside, the rain lashed against the neon sign of the Blackwood Diner, turning the world into a blur of red and blue. Inside, Death sat in booth 4. He didn't look like a monster. He looked like a storm contained in a bespoke suit. Charlotte Munro picked up the pot, her heart hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She wasn't a hunter. She was a waitress. But she knew the difference between justice and murder. The bell above the door didn't jingle when he walked in. It seemed to hold its breath. Liam Roth didn't move like a man who needed to rush. He moved like a glacier, slow, inevitable, and capable of crushing anything in his path without a second thought. He wore charcoal wool that absorbed the diner's harsh, fluorescent light, and his eyes were the color of a frozen lake, devoid of warmth but brimming with a terrifying intelligence. Charlotte watched him from behind the counter, her grip on the rag tightening until her knuckles turned white. The Blackwood Diner was usually a sanctuary for the lost and the drunk at 2 a.m., but tonight the air felt thin, charged with static. The regular patrons had cleared out early, leaving only a few shadowed figures in the back booths, men who hadn't touched their burgers, men whose hands stayed hidden beneath the tables. "Coffee," Liam said as he slid into booth 4. His voice was a low baritone that vibrated through the floorboards. "Black, coming right up," Charlotte said, her voice betraying a tremor she hoped he didn't hear. In the kitchen, "Verify." The cook handed her the mug. "This is it, Char," he hissed, his face pale. "The rebellion pays out tonight. Just give it to him. The liquid silver solution is tasteless in the coffee. Once he takes a sip, his throat will close up. The rest of us will handle the cleanup." Charlotte looked at the steaming mug. It looked innocent. It smelled like the cheap roast they served every night. But she saw the way the cook's hand shook. She saw the glint of weapons under the coats of the men in the back. This wasn't a fight. It was an execution. Liam Roth might be the Vampire King, a creature of nightmares according to the tabloids and the whispered lore of the underground. But walking into a trap felt wrong. It felt cowardly, and Charlotte Munro had never been a coward. She walked across the checkered floor, the mug heavy in her hand. Every step felt like wading through molasses. The men in the back shifted. She could feel their eyes boring into her spine. She reached the table. Liam didn't look up from the rain-streaked window. He seemed bored, or perhaps simply tired of an eternity of nights like this. Charlotte set the mug down. She also set down a napkin. It was a reflex, a stupid, suicidal reflex. On the napkin, hidden beneath the ceramic rim of the mug, she had scrawled a message in blue ballpoint ink. "Don't drink it. Smile and leave now." She pushed the mug slightly, revealing the edge of the text. Liam turned his head. His gaze hit her with the physical force of a physical blow. He looked at the coffee. He looked at the napkin. Then he looked at her. For a second, time stopped. The rain went silent. The hum of the refrigerator died. Charlotte expected him to stand, to vanish, to heed the warning. Instead, a slow, predatory smile curled the corner of his mouth. It wasn't a smile of gratitude. It was the smile of a wolf realizing the sheep has teeth. "Smile and leave," he murmured, his voice soft as velvet. "But I haven't paid my bill." Before Charlotte could blink, his hand shot out. It wasn't a human movement, it was a blur. His fingers, cool and hard as marble, wrapped around her wrist. The contact sent a shock wave of ice up her arm, straight to her heart. "What are you?" she gasped. "Down," Liam commanded. The front window exploded. Glass shattered inward in a glittering tsunami. The men in the back booths stood up, unleashing a hail of automatic gunfire that shredded the vinyl upholstery of Booth 4. But Charlotte wasn't there. Liam had yanked her down into the footwell, covering her body with his own. He didn't feel like flesh and blood. He felt like a statue, immovable and hard. Bullets pinged off the table legs and the floor. The sound was deafening, a chaotic symphony of destruction. "You have terrible timing, Charlotte," Liam whispered against her ear, his breath cool. "But excellent instincts." "They're going to kill us," she screamed over the noise. "They're going to try," he corrected. He moved then. He didn't just stand up, he erupted. He flipped the heavy oak table with one hand, as if it were made of cardboard, creating a shield. With the other hand, he never let go of her wrist. He hauled her up, dragging her toward the kitchen swinging doors. "My cook," Charlotte started. Liam kicked the kitchen door open. The cook was standing there, a sawed-off shotgun raised. He hesitated when he saw Charlotte. "Char, move!" the cook screamed. Liam didn't give him the chance. He didn't kill him. He moved too fast for violence. He simply bypassed him, shoving the cook into a rack of pots and pans with a casual flick of his elbow, sending the man crashing down in a cacophony of metal. They burst out the back door into the alleyway. The rain was torrential now, soaking Charlotte to the bone in seconds. "Let me go!" Charlotte yelled, trying to wrench her wrist free. "I helped you." Liam spun around, pinning her against the wet brick wall. He loomed over her, his eyes glowing faintly in the dark, the pupils blown wide. He was terrifying, beautiful, and utterly lethal. "You warned me," he said, his voice cutting through the storm. "Which means you are a traitor to your kind. If I leave you there, they will flay you alive to find out why. I took a chance, and now you take the consequences," Liam growled. He dragged her toward a sleek, black coupe parked in the shadows. He threw the door open and shoved her inside. As he rounded the car to get in the driver's seat, Charlotte saw the back door of the diner burst open. 3 men with silver-tipped crossbows spilled out. Liam didn't flinch. He got in, keyed the engine, and the car roared to life with the guttural growl of a beast. He spun the wheel, the tires shrieking against the wet pavement. As they peeled out of the alley, Charlotte looked back. The cook was standing in the doorway, staring at the retreating taillights. But it wasn't anger on his face. It was a look of absolute horror, directed not at the vampire, but at her. And then the Blackwood diner exploded. A fireball consumed the alley, blowing the windows out and turning the rain to steam. Liam watched it in the rearview mirror, his expression unreadable. "Plot twist," he muttered dryly. "The bomb wasn't for me. It was on a timer. They didn't care if they got me or not. They just wanted to erase the location." Charlotte stared at the flames, her heart turning to ash. "Why?" Liam glanced at her, his eyes narrowing. "Because, Charlotte Munro, you're not just a waitress. And that note just proved it." The car was a silent, hermetically sealed capsule, speeding through the night at 120 miles per hour. The rain outside was a chaotic blur, but inside, the smell of leather and ozone was suffocatingly calm. Charlotte huddled against the passenger door, shivering. Her uniform was soaked, her hair plastered to her skull. She kept glancing at Liam's hands on the leather steering wheel. Pale, steady, not a tremor. He drove with a casual precision that was more terrifying than recklessness. "Where are you taking me?" she asked. Her voice sounded small, scratchy. "Somewhere they can't smell you," Liam said. He didn't look at her. "Smell me?" Charlotte hugged herself tighter. "I smell like grease and rain." "You smell like betrayal," Liam corrected. "And ozone, and something else. Something ancient." He tapped a button on the console. A holographic map projected onto the windshield, displaying a route heading deep into the mountains north of the city. The territory of the Night Court. No human went there and returned the same. "I saved your life," Charlotte snapped, a spark of anger cutting through her fear. "You could at least say thank you instead of kidnapping me." Liam chuckled. It was a dark, dry sound. "Kidnapping implies I plan to ask for a ransom. Who would pay for you, Charlotte? The cook who just tried to blow us up? The parents who left you at a state orphanage in '98? Charlotte went cold. How do you know that? I'm king, he said simply. I know everything that breathes in my city, especially the anomalies. I'm not an anomaly. I'm a nobody. Nobodies don't spot liquid silver in black coffee by scent alone, Liam countered. He glanced over, his gaze sweeping her form. Humans can't smell silver. It's odorless to them. But you knew. You knew exactly what the cook was doing. Charlotte opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. He was right. She had smelled it. A faint, metallic tang, like licking a battery, coming from the pot. She had assumed it was just bad plumbing or a cleaning chemical. But the moment the cook panicked, she connected the dots. I have good instincts, she muttered. We'll see, Liam said. The car swerved suddenly. Liam cursed, his hand flying to the gear shift. Hold on! What? Something heavy slammed into the side of the car, metal screeching against metal. A black SUV, lights off, was ramming them toward the guardrail. Beyond the rail lay a sheer drop into the canyon. Hunters? Charlotte screamed, bracing her hands against the dashboard. Worse! Liam gritted out, fighting the wheel. Competitors! The SUV slammed them again. Glass spiderwebbed on Charlotte's side. Through the cracks, she saw a face in the other window. It wasn't human. It was pale, with elongated canines and eyes that burned red. Another vampire? Charlotte gasped. My cousin, Victor, Liam said, his voice dripping with disdain. He's impatient for the throne. Liam slammed the brakes. The attacking SUV, expecting resistance, shot past them. Liam gunned the engine instantly, clipping the SUV's rear bumper. The physics of the speed sent the SUV fishtailing. It spun out of control, slamming into the concrete median in a shower of sparks. Liam didn't slow down to check the wreckage. He accelerated, pushing the engine to a whine that hurt Charlotte's ears. Your own family wants you dead? Charlotte asked, breathless. Immortality is boring, Charlotte. Power is the only game left, Liam said. His face was set in stone, but Charlotte noticed a trickle of blood running from his nose. You're bleeding, she said. Liam wiped it away dismissively. Side effect of the adrenaline. I haven't fed tonight. The silence that followed was heavy. Charlotte pressed herself harder against the door. He hadn't fed, and he was trapped in a car with a beating heart. Don't worry, Liam said, sensing her spike in fear. I don't eat junk food. Excuse me? You're full of cortisol and caffeine. You'd taste terrible. The insult was strangely comforting. They drove for another hour, climbing higher into the mountains until the city lights were just a shimmering haze in the distance. Liam turned off the main road onto a concealed gravel track that wound up a cliff face. At the top sat a house, if you could call it that. It was a cantilevered structure of steel and glass, hanging precariously over the abyss. It looked cold, modern, and lonely. Liam pulled into the underground garage. As the engine died, the silence returned, ringing in Charlotte's ears. Get out, he said. Charlotte hesitated. If I go in there, I'm never leaving, am I? Liam got out of the car and walked around to her door. He opened it, leaning down so they were eye to eye. Up close, she could see the flecks of silver in his irises. She could smell the scent of him. Rain, expensive scotch, and iron. If you stay out here, Liam said softly, Victor's men will find you within the hour. They will peel your mind apart to find out why I took you. Inside, you are a prisoner. Outside, you are prey. Choose. Charlotte looked at his hand, extended toward her. It was the same hand that had bruised her wrist, but now the palm was open. She took it. He pulled her out, but he didn't let go. He led her toward the elevator. Why me? She asked again as the doors slid shut, sealing them in. Why not just leave me in the alley? Liam looked at the floor numbers ticking up. Because, Charlotte, he said, and for the first time, he looked tired. The silver wasn't the only thing in that diner that didn't belong. You warned me about the poison, but you didn't warn me about the bomb. I didn't know about the bomb. I know, Liam said. He turned to her, and the twist in his gut was visible on his face. The bomb wasn't meant to kill me. The bomb was a failsafe. If the poison didn't work, they were ordered to destroy the asset. Charlotte frowned. What asset? Liam pointed at her chest. You. The hit wasn't on me, Charlotte. It was on you. I didn't grab you to save myself. I grabbed you because you were the target. The penthouse was less of a home and more of a fortress, disguised as an architectural digest spread. Everything was sharp angles, polished concrete, and floor-to-ceiling glass revealing the storm raging outside. There were no photos, no personal clutter. Just space. Liam tossed his jacket onto a leather sofa and walked straight to a wet bar. He poured a glass of amber liquid. Whiskey, not blood, Charlotte noted with relief, and downed it in one go. Sit, he commanded, gesturing to a chair that looked uncomfortable and expensive. Charlotte remained standing. She was shivering, the damp cold of her uniform seeping into her skin. I was the target. That makes no sense. I serve burgers. I live in a studio apartment with a leaky faucet. Why would anyone send a hit squad after me? Liam leaned against the bar, watching her. Tell me about your parents. I don't have any. State care since I was 4. No file, no history. Just a drop-off. And your health? I've never been sick, Charlotte said, frowning. Not a cold, not the flu. Never broken a bone. Never? Liam raised an eyebrow. I'm lucky. Luck is a statistical anomaly. You are a biological impossibility, Liam said. He walked toward her. Charlotte held her ground, though every instinct screamed run. He stopped inches from her. He reached out, not to grab her wrist this time, but to brush a lock of wet hair from her neck. His fingers lingered on her pulse point. Your heart beats slower than a human's, he murmured. About 40 beats per minute. An athlete's resting rate, but you don't train. Your body temperature is 3 degrees lower than average, so I run cold. What is this, a physical? Charlotte slapped his hand away. Liam's eyes flashed, but he didn't strike back. He looked intrigued. The hunters in the diner. They weren't human hunters. They were the guild. They specialize in erasing bloodline errors. Bloodline errors? Vampires can't breed, Charlotte. We are dead. We turn humans. We don't birth children. It is the one law of nature we cannot break. He paused, his gaze dropping to the veins in her neck. But legends speak of the Dhampir. A hybrid. Born, not made. A creature with the strength of a vampire, but the soul of a human. Able to walk in the sun. Able to kill us without weapons. Charlotte let out a harsh, incredulous laugh. Okay, Twilight. Stop. I walk in the sun every day. I don't sparkle, and I definitely don't have super strength. I couldn't even open the pickle jar yesterday. Dhampir traits are dormant until triggered, Liam said. Usually by trauma, or proximity to a pureblood. He stepped closer. The air between them crackled. You smelled the silver. That was the first sign. And now, he inhaled deeply. Your scent is changing. The fear is fading. It's being replaced by something spicy, aggressive. It's called anger, Charlotte spat, and I'm leaving. She turned and marched toward the elevator. The code is 1984, Liam said, not moving to stop her. But the elevator is disabled, the stairs are alarmed, and there is a pack of feral ghouls patrolling the perimeter of the canyon. Charlotte stopped at the elevator doors. She punched the button. Nothing happened. She kicked the doors. Let me go. I can't, Liam said. If you are what I think you are, your blood is the only cure for the rot. Charlotte froze. She turned back to face him. The rot? Liam unbuttoned the cuff of his dress shirt and rolled up his sleeve. Charlotte gasped. His arm, which had looked perfect and marble white before, was veined with black, necrotic lines. They pulsed faintly, like poisoned rivers tracing up his forearm toward his heart. The king is dying, Liam said, his voice void of emotion. A slow, magical decay. There is no cure in our world. but the blood of a hybrid. That is life itself. Charlotte stared at the black veins. Suddenly, the invincible monster looked fragile. He hadn't kidnapped her to be a pet. He had kidnapped her to be a medicine cabinet. "You want to drain me?" she whispered. "No," Liam said. He rolled his sleeve down, hiding the weakness. "If I drain you, the power dies with you. I need you alive. I need to synthesize what is in your blood. But to do that, I need to keep you safe from Victor, who wants to kill you to ensure I die of the rot. So I'm a lab rat. Better a lab rat than a corpse." A chime echoed through the penthouse, a soft, melodic sound that signaled a visitor at the gate. Liam stiffened. He tapped a screen on the wall. A security feed popped up. Standing at the front gate, looking soaked and terrified, was Verify, the cook from the diner. He was holding his hands up to the camera, waving a white cloth. "Let me in!" The audio feed crackled. "Char, I know you're in there. I escaped them. I came to help." Charlotte's heart leapt. "It's Verify. He made it." "You shouldn't know where this place is," Liam said, his voice dangerous. "No one knows where this place is. He's my friend. He tried to save me in the kitchen." Charlotte ran toward the control panel. "Charlotte, don't—" Liam lunged, but she was faster. Or maybe, just maybe, the proximity to the pure blood had triggered something. She moved with a speed that surprised even her, her fingers slapping the "open" command before Liam could tackle her. The heavy steel gates on the monitor began to slide open. "You fool," Liam hissed, grabbing her shoulders. On the screen, Verify didn't run inside. He stepped back. From the shadows behind him, a dozen figures emerged. They wore tactical gear stamped with a crest Charlotte didn't recognize. A broken crown. Leading them was a tall man with pale hair and a smile that mirrored Liam's, but twisted. Victor. Verify looked up at the camera, and his terrified expression melted away. He smirked, tapping an earpiece. "Gates are open," Verify said, his voice clear over the speakers. She bought the rescue act hook, line, and sinker. "The king is yours." Charlotte stared at the screen, her stomach dropping out of the world. The cook hadn't been protecting her in the diner. He had been her handler. He had been waiting for the moment to sell her out. Liam released her shoulders. He didn't say, "I told you so." He didn't scream. He just walked to the center of the room and shed his jacket, revealing 2 hidden holsters under his arms. "Go to the safe room in the bedroom," Liam said quietly. "Lock the door." "Liam, go!" he roared, his vampire visage surfacing, fangs extending, eyes bleeding entirely black. As Charlotte scrambled toward the hallway, the elevator dinged. The override codes had been used. The door slid open, but it wasn't Victor who stepped out first. It was a woman. She was elegant, dressed in white silk that somehow wasn't wet from the rain. She held a silver scepter. Liam froze, the aggression drained from his stance, replaced by genuine shock. "Mother?" he breathed. The woman smiled, raising the scepter. "Hello, my son. You look terrible. I think it's time we put you out of your misery." The blast from the scepter threw Liam backward through the glass wall, out into the storm and the abyss below. "Liam!" Charlotte screamed. She was alone in the room with the monsters, and the king was gone. The storm didn't rage inside the penthouse anymore. It had been replaced by a silence so profound it felt like pressure building in the ears. Charlotte stood frozen, her hands pressed against the cold glass where Liam had vanished. The lightning outside illuminated the empty space where the balcony had been, now just a jagged tear in the building's side. "Touching," a voice said, crisp and cold as winter frost. But ultimately futile. Liam always did have a flair for the dramatic exit. Charlotte turned slowly. The woman in white, Liam's mother, was examining her fingernails. She looked timeless, her skin like porcelain, her eyes the same frozen blue as Liam's, but without the spark of humanity he sometimes betrayed. Victor stood behind her, looking like a scolded puppy who had finally been allowed back into the pack. "You killed him," Charlotte whispered. The shock was numb, A physical anesthesia. I disciplined him, the woman corrected. I am Queen Seraphina, and kings do not die from a fall, my dear. Though given the extent of the rot in his veins, the regeneration process will be agonizing. She smiled, a gesture that didn't reach her eyes. Verify. Bring the car around. We have a guest. Verify, the traitorous cook stepped forward, avoiding Charlotte's gaze. Yes, Your Majesty. You're not taking me anywhere, Charlotte said, backing toward the kitchen counter where a block of knives sat. Victor laughed. Oh, the little mouse thinks she has claws. Seraphina raised a hand, silencing him. She looked at Charlotte with a mix of curiosity and hunger. You are not a mouse, Victor. She is a chalice. A very rare, very fragile chalice, filled with the only vintage that matters. Charlotte lunged for the knife block. She was fast, faster than she should have been, but Seraphina was a blur of white silk. Before Charlotte's fingers could graze the handle, Seraphina was there, her hand wrapped around Charlotte's throat. There was no squeeze, just an immovable weight. Sleep, Seraphina commanded. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a spell woven into the voice. Charlotte's vision tunneled. The last thing she saw was Seraphina's perfect, terrifying face and the rain lashing against the broken window. She woke to the smell of damp earth and stale incense. Charlotte gasped, sitting up. She was on a stone cot in a cell that looked carved from bedrock. Heavy iron bars separated her from a dimly lit corridor. She wasn't bound, but her neck throbbed where Seraphina had touched her. Awake? A raspy voice called from the darkness of the cell opposite hers. Charlotte scrambled to the bars. Who's there? A face appeared in the gloom. A young man, gaunt and pale, with eyes that had seen too much darkness. Name's Kyle. Welcome to the larder. The larder? Charlotte felt bile rise in her throat. Where Queen Seraphina keeps her special reserves, Kyle said. We're under the old cathedral in the city centre. Hallowed ground for humans, a fortress for them. The irony is part of the seasoning. Charlotte gripped the iron bars. I have to get out. Liam, the king is out there. Kyle laughed bitterly. The king is dead, girl. Or he will be soon. Seraphina has taken the throne. She's announcing the coronation tonight. Once she wears the crown of knight, she controls the entire city's supernatural population. It's a blood bond. Absolute obedience. Not if he stops her, Charlotte said, her voice trembling but firm. He fell into the ravine, didn't he? I heard the guards laughing about it. Kyle sighed, sliding down the wall. Even a pureblood can't survive the rot without a cure. He's probably a pile of dust by now. Charlotte sank to the floor. She remembered the black veins on Liam's arm. The king is dying. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in years, she prayed. Not for herself, but for the monster who had grabbed her wrist and saved her life. Don't be dust, she thought fiercely. Be the storm. Miles away, at the bottom of a ravine, choked with jagged rocks and rushing water, a pile of broken limbs twitched. Pain was a universe, and Liam was its center. Every bone was shattered. The rot was screaming in his blood, capitalizing on the trauma to spread faster. It felt like burning acid moving through his veins. He gasped, a sound wet with blood. He dragged himself out of the freezing river, his fingers digging into the mud. Charlotte. The name was an anchor, a hook in his mind, preventing him from drifting into the void. He couldn't die. Not yet. He needed blood. A wolf, attracted by the scent of death, emerged from the tree line, growling low. It was a massive timber wolf, confident in its kill. Liam lifted his head. His jaw was dislocated, but he snapped it back into place with a sickening crack. His eyes glowed a feral, starving red. The wolf whimpered, realizing too late that it wasn't the hunter. I'm sorry, Liam rasped. When he stood up 10 minutes later, the wolf was gone, and Liam's bones had knit together. He wasn't healed, The black lines of the rot were now visible on his neck, creeping toward his jaw. But he was mobile. And he was furious. Plot twist. As Liam scales the cliff, he realizes his connection to the city's hive mind of vampires has been severed. He isn't just exiled, he has been excommunicated. He can no longer sense his subjects. But he can sense Charlotte, a singular, burning beacon of gold in a world of grey. He isn't tracking her by scent. He is tracking her by heartbeat. The larder wasn't just a prison, it was a laboratory. Victor came for her an hour later. He didn't use force. He opened the cell door with a mock bow. "My mother wishes to dine with you." "I'm not hungry," Charlotte spat. "You're not the guest, Charlotte. You're the course." He led her through a labyrinth of stone tunnels. The air grew colder, heavy with the scent of ancient dust and copper. They emerged into a vast, circular chamber beneath the cathedral. It was a perverse mirror of a church sanctuary. Instead of pews, there were cages. Instead of an altar, there was a throne made of fused obsidian and bone. Serafina sat on the throne. She held a goblet in one hand and Liam's signet ring in the other. "Bring her," Serafina said. Victor shoved Charlotte forward. She stumbled but caught herself, standing tall before the queen. "You have spirit," Serafina mused. "My son always did like broken things. He thought he could fix them. Or perhaps he thought they made him look whole by comparison." "He's not broken," Charlotte said. "He's just better than you." Serafina's eyes narrowed. "He is weak. He refused to cull the herd. He let the humans breed unchecked, let them forget to fear us. And then he contracted the rot because he refused to feed on the pure sources." She stood up, descending the dais. The white silk of her dress flowed like liquid smoke. "We need to test a theory, Charlotte. Victor, the knife." Victor produced a silver blade, intricately carved. He handed it to his mother. "What are you doing?" Charlotte backed away, but 2 guards seized her arms. "The Dampier legend says their blood is a cure," Serafina said, stepping close. "But other texts, older, darker texts, say their blood is an amplifier, that it grants the drinker the ability to walk in the sun, to become a god." She slashed the knife across Charlotte's palm. Charlotte cried out, instinctively pulling back, but the guards held tight. Serafina caught the welling blood in a crystal vial. It didn't look like normal blood. Under the torchlight, it shimmered with a faint, iridescent sheen. "Beautiful," Serafina whispered. She didn't drink it. She poured a single drop onto a potted orchid, sitting on a nearby table. The reaction was instantaneous and violent. The orchid didn't just grow, it mutated. It shot upward, twisting and writhing, its petals turning from white to a deep, bruised purple, thorns erupting from the stem like daggers. In seconds it was a monstrous thing, pulsating with energy. Serafina laughed. It was a sound of pure triumph. Power. Raw, unadulterated life force. If I drink this, I won't just be queen of the night. I will be queen of the day. "It will kill you," Charlotte lied, her heart pounding. Or, a voice boomed from the shadows of the arched ceiling, "it will burn you from the inside out." Glass rained down from the high skylight of the cathedral above. A figure dropped from the darkness, landing in a crouch in the center of the chamber. Liam. He looked at the broken guards, then at her son. Her expression shifted from fear to pity. "Look at you," she sneered. "You're rotting standing up. You can barely hold yourself together. You think you can defeat me?" She raised her hand. The shadows in the room came alive, forming tendrils of darkness that wrapped around Liam's limbs, pinning him in place. Magic. Ancient blood magic. Liam roared, straining against the bonds, but the rot weakened him. He dropped to one knee, groaning in agony. "Run, Charlotte!" Liam yelled, his eyes locking with hers. Charlotte looked at the open tunnel. She looked at Liam, bound and dying. She saw the vial of her blood on the floor where Serafina had dropped it. It hadn't shattered. It was stoppered. She didn't run. She grabbed the vial. "No!" Serafina shouted, realizing what she intended. Charlotte uncorked the vial and sprinted. Not toward the exit, but toward Liam. "Trust me," she screamed. She slid across the stone floor, dodging a blast of dark magic from Serafina, and shoved the open vial against Liam's mouth. "Drink." Liam hesitated for a fraction of a second. Then his survival instinct took over. His lips parted, and he swallowed the blood. Plot twist. The blood doesn't cure him instantly. It causes him to convulse. He arches his back, a scream tearing from his throat that shatters the remaining glass in the room. His skin begins to glow. Literally glow, with a golden light that burns away the shadow bindings. The rot doesn't disappear, it recedes, chased back by the gold. But the twist is that Liam's eyes change, the pupils vanish. His eyes become solid, glowing, molten gold. He has become something else. The burst of energy threw Charlotte back against the stone altar. When she looked up, the room was bathed in blinding light. Liam stood in the center of it, not as a creature of darkness, but as a being of terrifying radiance. The black veins were gone, replaced by shimmering gold scars that looked like kintsugi, broken pottery repaired with gold. Serafina shielded her eyes, shrieking, "What have you done?" Liam looked at his hands. "I don't know," he said, his voice echoing with a double timbre, human and something divine. "But I feel warm." He looked at his mother. "Leave. I am the queen." "You are a shadow," Liam said. He flicked his hand. A wave of golden force slammed into Serafina, pinning her against the throne. She didn't burn, but she couldn't move. The light seemed to weigh her down, solidifying the air around her. "Victor," Liam commanded without looking. His cousin, groaning on the floor, looked up in terror. "Take her. Leave the city. If I see either of you within the borders again, I will not be merciful." Victor didn't hesitate. He scrambled up, grabbed his mother, who was paralyzed with shock, and dragged her into the shadows, fleeing the blinding presence of the new king. The light around Liam faded slowly, settling into a soft hum beneath his skin. He swayed, the adrenaline crash hitting him hard. Charlotte ran to him, catching him as he stumbled. "Liam, are you okay?" He looked at her. His eyes were fading back to blue, but the gold flecks were now dominant, swirling like stars. He touched her face, his hand warm, actually warm. "You stayed," he whispered, sounding bewildered. "I told you to run. I told you." Charlotte managed a shaky smile. "I'm not a coward, and I have excellent timing." Liam laughed, a genuine, breathless sound. He pulled her into a hug, burying his face in her neck. For the first time, he didn't feel like a predator. He felt like a man holding on to a lifeline. "We have to go," he murmured against her skin. The other covens, they will have felt that energy surge. Every vampire, hunter, and creature in the tri-state area knows something has changed. We've just painted a target on our backs, bigger than the moon. "Where can we go?" Charlotte asked. "You were exiled?" "Not exiled," Liam pulled back, looking at the exit. "Reborn. But we need a stronghold. My penthouse is compromised. There is only one place left." "Where?" "The sunken library," Liam said. "It's underneath the river. Neutral ground, protected by ancient wards. No one can enter without an invitation." "Do you have an invitation?" Liam smirked, the old arrogance returning. "I'm the king, Charlotte. I am the invitation." They made their way out of the catacombs, stealing a motorcycle from the guard's garage. The rain had stopped. The city was waking up, the early morning grey clinging to the skyscrapers. As they sped across the bridge toward the river, Charlotte wrapped her arms around Liam's waist. She could feel the heat radiating off him. She pressed her cheek against his back. Thump, thump, thump. She froze. "Liam!" she shouted over the wind. "Yeah, your heart," she said, tears pricking her eyes. "It's beating." Liam went rigid for a second, then relaxed. "I know," he shouted back. "Side effect of the cure, or the curse, depending on how you look at it." They reached the hidden entrance to the sunken library. an abandoned subway station near the docks. Liam navigated the bike down the tracks into the dark, but as they descended, Charlotte saw something on the tunnel wall. Graffiti. Bright neon spray paint. The hybrid is key. The king is false. Rise of the Red Sun. Liam stopped the bike. He stared at the writing. That's not gang tag, he said quietly. What is it? It's a prophecy, Liam said. From the first age. He turned to Charlotte, his face grim. The golden scars on his neck pulsed. My mother wanted your blood to walk in the sun. But she didn't know the whole story. The prophecy says that when the dead king's heart beats again, the red sun will rise. And the red sun, it burns everything. So I saved you, Charlotte whispered. Only to start the apocalypse? Maybe, Liam said. He reached out and took her hand, interlacing their fingers. But at least we'll face it together. Plot twist. As they enter the library, the neutral keeper steps out to greet them. It's an old woman, blind, with tattoos covering her face. She smells the air and smiles. Ah, she croaks. The king and his maker have arrived. Charlotte frowns. His maker? I'm just a waitress. The old woman laughs. Oh, child, you are not the waitress. You are the source. You didn't just wake his heart. You gave him your soul. You are now tethered. If he dies, you die. If you die, the world breaks. The sunken library smelled of ozone and old paper. It was a cathedral of knowledge buried beneath the Hudson River, its glass ceiling revealing the murky, swirling currents of the water above. Liam sat on a velvet armchair, shirtless, while the keeper, the blind old woman named Ilara, traced the golden scars on his back with a feathered quill dipped in glowing ink. The tether is absolute, Ilara croaked, her milky eyes fixed on nothing. You feel what she feels. You bleed when she bleeds. Charlotte stood by a stack of ancient scrolls, watching. She felt a phantom itch on her own back, exactly where the quill touched Liam. It was a sensation deeper than touch. It was an echo in her soul. Is there a way to break it? Liam asked, his jaw tight. I will not be a liability to her, and I will not have her life tied to a monster's. You are no longer a monster, boy, Ilara cackled. You are an anomaly, a solar flare trapped in a corpse. And she... Ilara pointed a bony finger at Charlotte. She is the gravity that keeps you from exploding. Charlotte stepped forward. The prophecy on the wall. The red sun. What is it? Ilara stopped writing. The silence in the library was heavy, pressed down by the weight of the river above. The red sun is not a thing, Ilara whispered. It is a hunger. Before the vampires, before the humans, there were entities of pure consumption. We locked them away in the void. But the prophecy says that a king with a beating heart becomes a door. Your heart, Liam, is the knock. If you open that door, the red sun enters. It will consume all magic. Then all life. Liam stood up, the golden scars pulsing. Then I'll stop my heart again. No, Charlotte shouted, the fear sharp and immediate. Liam looked at her, his expression tortured. Charlotte, if I am the door to the apocalypse, I have to be shut. It's the only way to keep you safe. You don't get to decide that, she said, her voice shaking. You don't get to grab my wrist, drag me into this world, make me care about you, and then check out because it's noble. That's not sacrifice, Liam, that's quitting. He crossed the room in 2 strides, grabbing her shoulders. His skin was burning hot. I can feel your fear, Charlotte. It tastes like ash in my mouth. I won't let you die for me. I'm not afraid of dying, she whispered, looking up into his gold-flecked eyes. I'm afraid of going back to a life where I don't matter, where I'm just pouring coffee for ghosts. The air between them shimmered. The tether pulled tight, a magnetic force dragging them together. Liam lowered his head, his forehead resting against hers. You were never just a waitress, he murmured. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, a collision of 2 stars. And in that moment, the library shook. The river water above the glass ceiling began to glow red. Elara gasped, dropping her quill. "It has found us!" Plot twist. It wasn't Liam's heartbeat that summoned the enemy. It was their connection. The kiss, the unification of the vessel and the key, sent a signal louder than any beacon. The river above explodes inward, not with water, but with soldiers. Not human soldiers. Not vampires. But revenants, corpses possessed by the red sun entity, burning with crimson fire. The glass ceiling shattered. Thousands of gallons of river water crashed down, but before it could drown them, Liam threw his hand up. A dome of golden light erupted from his palm, vaporizing the water into a massive cloud of steam. But through the steam dropped the revenants. They were skeletal, their eyes burning with red flame, wielding jagged blades made of shadow. "Get to the vault!" Elara screamed, pulling a lever that opened a hidden passage behind a bookshelf. "Not without you," Charlotte yelled, grabbing the old woman's arm. "I am the keeper." Elara shoved a heavy, leather-bound book into Charlotte's chest. "This contains the ritual of severance. If the red sun takes him, you must use it. You must cut the tie." A revenant landed on Elara, its blade slicing down. Liam roared, a sound that was more lion than man, and tackled the creature, his fists glowing like irons in a forge. He punched through the revenant's chest, turning it to ash. "Go!" Liam commanded, pushing Charlotte toward the tunnel. "Liam! I'll buy you time. Run!" Charlotte hesitated, tears blurring her vision. But she felt his intent through the tether. Pure, protective love. She turned and ran into the dark passage, the book clutched to her chest. She didn't run far. The tunnel opened into an underground grotto. She stopped, breathing hard. She couldn't leave him. She opened the book. The pages were blank. "What?" She frantically flipped through it. "It's empty!" "Look with your blood," a voice whispered in her head. Charlotte looked at her hand, still bandaged from where Serafina had cut her. She ripped the bandage off, reopening the wound. She pressed her bloody palm against the page. Text appeared. Burning, scrawling script. "The ritual of severance is a lie. The tether cannot be cut. It can only be consumed." Charlotte went cold. Elara had lied. There was no way to save herself by cutting Liam loose. The only way to end this was to let the connection consume one of them entirely. Suddenly, the tunnel shook. Liam was thrown into the grotto, crashing against the rock wall. He slid down, bleeding. Not red blood, but liquid gold. The revenants were swarming in behind him, and behind them walked Serafina. She looked different. Her skin was cracked, red light leaking from the fissures. She had given herself to the red sun. "My poor boy!" Serafina's voice was a chorus of screams. "You are fighting the inevitable. Give me the key. Let us burn this world and build a paradise of silence." Liam struggled to stand. "Over my dead body." "That," Serafina smiled, "is the arrangement." She raised her hand. A spear of red energy formed. She hurled it at Liam. He was too weak to dodge. Charlotte didn't think. She didn't calculate. She moved. She stepped in front of Liam. Plot twist. The spear hits Charlotte. But it doesn't kill her. It absorbs into her. The damper blood, the anomaly, doesn't just heal. It adapts. It takes the energy of the red sun and neutralizes it. Charlotte glows, not gold, but a blinding, pure white. She catches the spear in her chest, and her eyes turn completely silver. She isn't the key anymore. She is the lock. The silence that followed was absolute. Serafina took a step back, her face twisting in genuine confusion. "Impossible. You are mortal." Charlotte looked down at her chest. The wound was gone, replaced by a silver mark in the shape of a star. She felt infinite. She felt Liam's pain through the tether, but she also felt his power. And she realized the truth. The book was right. The tether had to be consumed, not by death, but by life. She turned to Liam. He was staring at her in awe. "Charlotte?" "Stand up, King," she said, her voice echoing with the harmonics of a bell. "We have a bill to settle." She reached out her hand. Liam took it. When their skin touched, the circuit closed. Gold met silver. Day met night. A shock wave of energy blasted outward from the grotto, tearing through the tunnels, up through the river, and into the sky above the city. The revenants screamed as they were disintegrated by the light. Seraphina shrieked, trying to shield herself with shadows, but the light was omnipresent. It wasn't burning her, it was curing her. It was stripping the red sun entity out of her cells. "No, I am the queen!" Seraphina wailed as the red fissures in her skin healed, leaving her looking old, frail, and powerless. She collapsed, a mortal woman in a ruined silk dress. The light cleared. The grotto was calm. The water from the river was held back by a shimmering barrier of silver and gold. Liam looked at his hands. The rot was gone. The golden scars remained, but they were faint, like old tattoos. He looked at Charlotte. The silver in her eyes faded back to warm hazel, but the star-shaped mark on her chest remained. "What are we?" Liam whispered. Charlotte smiled, tired but triumphant. "I think we're the balance, Liam. Not monsters, not humans, just us." Liam pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. "Remind me never to grab your wrist again. You're dangerous." "Only when the service is barred," she quipped, though her voice cracked with emotion. They walked over to Seraphina. She was weeping, huddled on the floor. The entity was gone. She was just a broken mother who had loved power more than her son. "What do we do with her?" Charlotte asked. Liam looked at his mother. "Nothing. We leave her. Losing her crown is a punishment worse than death for her." He took Charlotte's hand. "Let's go home. I'm craving a burger. And maybe some really terrible coffee." Plot twist. As they leave the ruins, the camera pans back to the diner from Chapter 1. It is being rebuilt. The sign is flickering, but in the shadows of the alley, a figure is watching them. It's not an enemy. It's a child. A child with eyes that are one gold, one silver. The cycle hasn't ended. It has just begun a new turn. They didn't take the throne. The city of the Night Court fell into chaos for a while, but eventually a council formed. Vampires, humans, and